So good afternoon, everybody, and a very warm welcome to today's session. Before we begin, we're going to be starting at 3 minutes past 2 o'clock. My name is Val. It's great to have you on this live webinar. And while you wait for us to get going, we'd love for you to engage with us using the Mentee polling link. Tell us how you're feeling today. It's Transformation Tuesday, so engage with us. The link is in the chat. We look forward to kicking off in just a few minutes. It's great to see the responses coming through on the Mentee polling. As you can see, the responses are flipping through on the slide in front of you. Just a reminder, it is completely confidential to engage on Mentee. We're going to be kicking off today's webinar in just a minute. So please engage with us on Mentee and tell us how you're feeling on this Tuesday afternoon.
All right, I've got it at 3 minutes past on my clock, so I'm going to kick off. Afternoon, everybody. I hope you are all doing well this afternoon. Just a quick introduction. My name is Daniela Borges. I am an account manager at Kaelo, and joining me today and presenting today is Val Leeming. She is a coach and trainer in financial wellness with over 19 years experience. She's been doing these presentations for so long. I'm sure, Val, you could do it in your sleep now. Her company interface is Kaelo's third-party financial advisory provider. So when you phone through to Ask Nelson and ask for any financial advice, you are then led onto Val's team. Val's going to kick us off today, taking us through a webinar on rands and cents, a general guide to better budgeting. I think in today's South African economic standing, I don't think it could have come at a better time. So Val, over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Daniela, and good afternoon, everybody, and such a warm welcome to you all. And thank you for logging in today for today's live webinar. It's great to be with you and to talk money. And certainly, in order to engage with you a little bit more fully today, we're asking you to please use the Mentee polling platform. It's so nice to be able to have an opportunity that's confidential, where you can air how you're feeling, and I also get a sense of how you're doing as the audience. And I'm seeing a few key words popping up in terms of our icebreaker question. Some of you are feeling anxious and overwhelmed, perhaps tired. A few of you are feeling happy, optimistic, perhaps productive. And that's awesome. That's how you're coming into today's session. But really what we're going to be doing is throughout the next hour is really see how you can manage your personal finances through these very tough times, as Daniela mentioned. And I guess we're listening, and we really are here to support and to help you no matter where you find yourself on your financial journey. So I'd love to ask you sort of how you're feeling about your personal finances right now. If I was to sort of be having a coffee or a conversation with you, and I was saying to you, how are you feeling? Or what's your money emoji? Would you say you're feeling happy? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling stressed? Where are you at in terms of your feelings about money right now? And I'd love to see your thoughts in terms of that question as we engage a little bit with you. In terms of Menti, you can either click on the link which has been shared on the chat, or alternatively, you can use your phone and simply send a message literally by scanning that QR code. But it's great to just get a sense of how you're feeling about your personal finances. As a financial coach and trainer, many people come to us feeling anxious and worried and stressed with regards to their personal finances. So it would be great to see what your personal thoughts and feelings are. I'm seeing that I'm going to quickly stop sharing and just reshare and see whether you guys can, hopefully the Menti polling links start to come through. So let's take a look and see how are people feeling in today's audience right now about their personal finances. The first question seemed to be working perfectly. So let's take a look in terms of that. But otherwise, just give it some thought and tell us how you're feeling right now in terms of your personal finances. It would be great to hear. So let me just see whether that's working. Hopefully, yeah, here we go. Here are some of the feelings coming up: anxious, stressed, worried. And certainly my message to you is you're not alone. If you're feeling comfortable and satisfied, that's great. We always want to earn more. We always want our money to work more for us, and that's great. So no matter where you're at, it's vitally important that you check in with how you're feeling. And then over the last 2 years, do you feel like perhaps COVID and perhaps maybe COVID didn't impact your finances, but maybe on the flip side, the current global events are having an impact on your rands and cents? The cost of petrol's going up. The cost of living seems to be going up. So really, it's vitally important that we ask ourselves sort of what's changed, how are we feeling right now, and then what has actually changed. And very importantly, if you were to sort of be able to think about, as a nation, would you say we're financially healthy? Are we financially healthy? Are we in a bit of financial distress? How healthy would you say we're at overall as South Africans? So not you personally, but I know we've got hundreds of people on the call today, and I'd love you just to say, in general, as a nation, would you say we're financially healthy? Or would you say we're sort of experiencing some levels of poor financial health? And as you can see, the resounding answers, most of you are saying we've got poor financial health, and I would definitely agree with you. So not on a personal level, as a nation, I definitely would agree with you. And here are some of the trends that we're seeing before we take a deep dive into your financial fitness levels, into how you can budget more effectively. Sadly, in South Africa today, things, and around the world, it's not just a local problem, it's definitely a global problem. But some of the trends are, for every 100 Rand you and I earn, around about 78 Rand is spent on debt. Interest rates have gone up. From 7% to 8.25%. Unemployment has gone up. The cost of living and inflation has gone up. And people are, when they're looking to retire, sadly, we're not all retiring comfortably. One of the statistics is that 95% of people are unable to retire. So to put it in context, if you're working and you're currently struggling, imagine yourself, your future self, and whether you're going to be able to retire comfortably. So it's vitally important to sort of check in and sort of rate what is your financial fitness level. Certainly when it comes to my if I was to say my physical fitness level, I would be kind of out of shape. I would be in that red zone because I don't spend time exercising. But if I was in decent shape, I would be perhaps exercising once or twice a week. great shape, maybe daily. Peak performance, perhaps I would be able to do the comrades. My levels of fitness would be very, very high. Similarly, when it comes to our personal finances, you need to almost check in with yourself and say to yourself, am I financially out of shape? Am I in great shape? Am I at peak performance? So I'd love for you to give that some consideration and thought and just ask yourself, you know, in terms of my own personal financial fitness, how would I rate myself? Because when it comes to sort of getting back into your improving your budgeting, improving the outcomes on a monthly basis, you know, John DeMartini says, the clearer your picture of your present, the faster you can grow your financial future. So just like if you're going to see a dietitian, they would say, let's hop on the scale, let's weigh in. Similarly, with your personal finances, we need to almost have some sort of a weigh in terms of where are you at. So let's take a look at that question and see where are we at as, you know, wherever you're sitting, wherever you're at here in South Africa, how would you rate your current financial fitness levels? Would you say you're out of shape or in perhaps peak performance? But give us some sort of an indication of where you're at. So thank you so much for engaging with us on Menti. And I'm sure you can see how almost reassuring it is, because we don't talk about money, because money is very often seen as a taboo subject. You can't go over to your colleague and say, so how financially in shape are you? As you might ask them about perhaps their physical fitness. So important for us to feel like we're not alone. And as you can see, the statistics on this group, many of you are saying you're out of shape. There are very few of us saying we're at peak performance level. And sadly, as breadwinners, if you're sort of working hard during the day in order to put bread or bacon on the table, there's significant amounts of pressure on us. There's an incredible amount of pressure on us to bring home the bacon, to look after our loved ones. And this sort of anxiety around all this pressure can also impact us physically, mentally, and emotionally. In fact, there's been a significant amount of research done on the impact of financial stress on a person, on their mental health and well-being. And so we really just want to remind you that help is at hand. And so if you're worrying about your personal finances, you need to reach out and sort of be able to access support. And the reason why I'm positioning today's session before we take a deep dive into how to budget better, it's important to understand why budgeting is so very important. And if you're feeling financially stressed out, that you sort of realize that you're not alone, that help is definitely at hand. So once again, on Menti, we're asking the question, you know, how would you rate your financial stress levels? Would you say whether you're feeling stress, are you saying, yes, I'm feeling stressed? Do I sometimes feel stressed? And it's very interesting, actually 98% of people will feel financial stress at some point in their lives. I certainly want to be that sort of 2% who doesn't feel financial stress. But the reality is, men and women, it affects us all alike. People of different income earning levels, it affects, financial stress affects you. Lottery winners. So if you're wanting to win the lottery and you're hoping that perhaps a financial windfall will transform your financial stress levels, sadly, the lottery effect shows us that even lottery winners, after the first year or two, find themselves back in a situation that they feel financially stressed out. So it's important to unpack. And here you're seeing this, you know, if we take a look at that, 2 out of about 60 or 70 people not feeling financial stress. So it's vitally important to sort of understand and unpack the reasons, the top reasons for financial stress. And those top reasons currently, and many of them have stayed the same, are things like too much debt, that 4-letter word debt. As you can understand, if a lot of our income is being spent on debt, how can we reach financial freedom? So that almost like a force of gravity holding us down, preventing us from reaching financial freedom. Or perhaps it's a case of spending more than we earn. We see our salaries as target practice. Or is it a case of bad planning? Or is it a case of family support? Or perhaps things outside of our control, like job loss, unemployment? Or is it a case of when a financial emergency happens, we don't sadly have savings to fall back on? Or is it something external, the cost of living? Or is it the fact that petrol has skyrocketed? So vitally important. And what I always find as a financial coach and trainer, more than 50% of these reasons are actually within our control. And for me, that's positive. Maybe I'm just seeing the glasses half full, not half empty. But it's positive because through financial coaching, by learning how you can manage your budget more effectively, by managing your debt, by spending time planning your finances, you can improve your financial fitness and your financial health. So financial wellness for me is certainly a passion, and it's for me sort of so vitally important because the average person, we spend 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, and we work so hard in order to earn our income, our living. But I'm often left asking myself, how much time do we spend managing that income? Do we feel financially empowered to make good decisions? Do we prioritize ourselves in terms of managing our finances? And I guess we can outsource a lot in our lives, but in terms of outsourcing money management, this is one area that you certainly need to be in the driver's seat, because if you don't manage your finances, who will? So I love that quote. I'm the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul. So we really need to prioritize. And, you know, today, the fact that you've logged into this live event and you're showing this desire to invest 1 hour of your precious time to manage your money more effectively, to learn how to cope in these tough times, is a great starting point. So as part of today's session, we thought we would unpack not only budgeting, but what we call the 3 A's minus the E. So in terms of personal financial health, you've got to have this formula in place. The formula really is, what is your money ability like? So do you have the skills and knowledge to manage your finances? What is your relationship with money like? Your or your attitude towards money? And then, are you doing the work? What's your money activity like? And in terms of money activity, this is really where this budget is the key to financial health and wellness. And then minus the E, these could be the excuses, the reasons, the habits, or the things that are outside of our control that really seem to create that barrier. So we've got to do the right, we've got to have the knowledge and skills, we've got to have really understand why we do what we do, we've got to do the work, and then we've got to take a look at what's outside of our control. So let's jump into that very first A, money ability. So that is really defined as the skills and ability in order to reach your financial goals. Now, Thomas Edison is famous for saying that if we did everything that we were capable of, we would literally astound ourselves. We would blow our minds. This is the guy who invented the light bulb. Whenever we plunged into load shedding darkness, I think about Thomas Edison. And I really think about, in terms of South Africans or people all around the world, managing money is most probably one of the most important life skills to have. That ability, that that feeling of being capable of managing money. So in order to really emphasize this point, I thought I would share with you this short video. If you could just give me a thumbs up if you can hear, and I'm hoping you can hear the short video on what is financial capability. I'm going to switch off my video just so you can watch without interruption this video. And I guess, sorry, my apologies. And I guess that's where we come in. If it seems a little overwhelming, we're going to simplify it for you. But really a great definition of what it means to be financially capable. And sadly, many people don't have those knowledge and skills. And I guess the buck stops here. If you're a parent, if you're a mom or a dad, it's so vitally important to teach your kids the importance of learning how to manage their money and constantly investing time in sort of really looking at that budget, looking at our habits, looking at what we need to tweak, adjusting your daily spending, and looking towards whether your actions are aligned to those goals, taking a look at the highs and lows of life, building that skill of financial resilience. But ultimately, we need to ask ourselves, do we have that knowledge and skills? And then secondly, what are our money habitudes? So habitudes, a combination of the word habits and attitudes, and very often our habitudes impact the financial decisions that we make on a monthly basis. So vitally important to unpack that for just a minute. And so, I often am asked, why do I do or why do I make the financial decisions that I make on a daily basis? I know I should budget. I know I should live within my budget, but I tend to sort of do something completely different. And so it's important to unpack, well, what impacts the money situations and the money decisions that we make on a daily basis? What is the psychology around these decisions that we make? And I guess for me, as a financial coach and trainer, your past, your history book with money, your money beliefs, what you were taught about money, your current money personality impacts the financial decisions that we make. People around us impact the financial decisions that we make. Jim Rohn says, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And when I take a look at those 5 people that I surround myself with, are they having a positive or a negative impact on me and my spending habits and my budget? How are they impacting me? How do our relationships with our loved ones, family support, how does that impact us? And then what about things that are outside of our control, like the cost of petrol, like the cost of groceries? How does that then also impact us? So let's start off by taking a look for a minute, before we go on to your budget, let's just take a look at what we call the psychology of money, or our money DNA. So really, our relationship with money starts out in childhood with our very first money memory, and our past experiences with money and the way we perceive money, where we're at in our financial lives, our personal habits, all have an impact on the financial decisions that we make on a monthly basis. So our relationships with money, our history book with money, that first money experience has an impact on what is now called your money personality. Now, your money personality is defined as your natural response to money. So, for example, let's say, let me give you a money situation. Let's say after payday, you've all just been paid, or you've got cash in the bank, and we put you in a money situation. You and a couple of your friends are out for dinner. It's nobody's birthday. The bill arrives. It's a money situation. How are you going to respond to that money situation? So if you want to have fun with this, you can pop in the chat box. What would you do in that money situation? Would you pay the bill in full? Would you split it equally? Would you pay for your own share? What would you do in that money situation? And that really gives you insights into your money personality. So you might be somebody who is really a money ostrich, where you tend to sort of bury your head in the sand. You don't like dealing with money, or perhaps money makes you feel super secure. So you want to make sure that you have the right protection elements in place. Or perhaps you see money as a way of reaching your goals. So therefore your budget most probably is very aligned to those goals. Or perhaps somebody where money helps you reflect who you are as a person. Perhaps what you're wearing is vitally important. Perhaps money is linked to giving to others or giving back to the community. Perhaps giving to charity is important to you. Or are you free-spirited? Or do you simply live in the moment, live in the here and now? So all of this definitely has an impact on our personal finances. And some of the money stories that are coming through very strongly in terms of the financial cases that we manage on a monthly basis is that many, many people are struggling. They're literally living paycheck to paycheck. They are sort of getting paid on the 25th of the month, or let's say the end of the month, and within 5 days, that salary is gone. In fact, First National gave quite a scary statistic. They said 80% of mid-income earners, so people earning from around about 180,000 to $500,000 a year, they find themselves within 5 days, 80% of them within 5 days of earning that salary is gone. Or perhaps you're struggling with, how am I going to cope when everything is going up? I'm a very financially disciplined person, but I simply can't cope with the fact that petrol has gone up the way it's gone up. Fuel prices have gone up. There is, the cost of electricity during winter has gone up. Perhaps you're really struggling with your average basket of goods. Or perhaps you're struggling around this sort of issue around inflation being what it's at. The best way for me to unpack inflation is simply to take a look at sort of the buying power of our rands and cents. So in the 80s, $1,000 would have bought you a brand new car. And today it buys you maybe a pair of running shoes on sale. So the cost of the value of our rands can't purchase what it once purchased. Or in that other example, in the 70s, a cup of coffee would have cost Americans 25 cents, and currently it costs $1.60. Just an example, a simple cup of coffee over a period of time. So as we take a look at changing our financial situations, changing our outcomes, awareness is vitally, vitally important. So becoming aware of your relationship with money, aware of your financial skill set, aware of what impacts you and your personal finances, aware of how relationships might be having an impact on your rands and cents. Love this quote by Sheryl Sandberg. We cannot change what we're not aware of, but once we become aware of something, we cannot help but to change it. So the past is the past, but currently, do you aspire to budget each and every month, or do you aspire to save? And then month after month, you end up in a situation where your budget is short every single month. So what can we do differently moving forward? And I guess this is vitally important for me, is in terms of budgeting, it is literally the cornerstone of a financially healthy future. So we've got to learn how we can manage our rands and cents during these very tough financial times. So when it comes to budgeting, what best describes you? Once again, on a mentee polling, tell me, do you budget and do you stick to it? Do you budget but you struggle to stick to it? Or perhaps you don't budget, or perhaps you're feeling like, I don't know how to budget effectively. So I'd love to just get you to check in with me on this question around budgeting, seeing as though today is all around budgeting and how we can manage our rands and cents more effectively. One of my colleagues is checking on the chat, and she is definitely responding to your questions. And if there is anything you need assistance with, please don't hesitate. I'm not Superwoman. I can't manage the chat and be able to engage with you. So she is definitely keeping an eye on that. And so thank you, Maria, for doing that. But if we take a look at it in terms of how people are responding to this question, a lot of you are struggling with budgeting and sticking to it, or perhaps not knowing how to budget effectively. For those of you who are budgeting and sticking to it, but your outcome is still not what you want it to be, we're going to unpack how you can actually budget more effectively during these tough times. But it's almost reassuring to know you're not alone. If you're struggling to stick to that budget, there you see 42% of people on today's webinar are feeling the same way you're feeling. So let's recap on those basics of a budget. And it doesn't matter what budgeting tool you use, whether you're using a budgeting app provided by your bank, or whether you've downloaded a spreadsheet, or whether you're using a free app or a pay-as-you-go app. Doesn't matter what you're using, pen and paper. Get old-fashioned about it. The actual basics of a budget are all exactly the same. It starts off with income. So net income, what you earn, what hits your bank account on payday. What are your fixed monthly payments? We're going to unpack those fixed monthly payments, the have-tos in our personal budgets. Then the variable payments, these are the things that go up and down, or in today's times, they go up and up. So variable payment would be things like your groceries, it would be petrol, it would be water, lights, and electricity. Discretionary payments, those are the AKA the fun things in life, things that you could live without, but perhaps you don't want to. And then with every budget, after you've looked at what comes in, what goes out, we need to understand what's the net result. So income less your expenses, what is the net result? So in terms of this, let's kick off with income. So very often, people don't always really take a close look at their income and at their benefits. So I would say that that is a starting point. Remember that if there are benefits, if you're on cost to company, it would purely be that one line item of income. Perhaps if you've got various sources of income, you would need to take a look at that. The good news is that prior to COVID, about 70% of people were not understanding and checking their payslips. Post-COVID, we're seeing 70% of people do check their payslips, do understand their benefits. Things like medical aid, contributing towards retirement, perhaps taking a look at whether they've got risk cover. If your company supports you in terms of your EAP program, the Kaelo Lifestyle Program would definitely be seen as a benefit. So vitally important. In order to get wealthy, you need to learn to manage 1 month's income, and it always starts off with that source of income and understanding exactly those benefits. Secondly, I would definitely say, you want to make it real. As I mentioned earlier on, time is money. So because money comes in so many different forms, if you think about it, you swipe your card, snap scan something, Splitwise it, money comes in, money goes out, debit cards, credit cards, all different forms of payment, EFTs. It's vitally important to make it real. So in order to make it real, it's a very simple exercise. What you've got to do is you've simply got to take your net income and divide it by the number of hours you work. So in this example, net income 16,000 Rand. If I work 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, let's say that's 40 hours a week, 160 hours a month. My PHR, my personal hourly rate, is therefore $100 an hour. Now, why is this so important in terms of budgeting effectively? Well, the next time you buy anything or pay for anything, you need to revert it back to the number of hours you've worked. So, for example, if we were to take this little line item of your cell phone, we've all got a cell phone. Let's say you're earning $100 an hour. If you're spending 500 Rand on your cell phone or data, that's equivalent to 5 hours at work. So vitally important to make it real. Or if you buy a cup of coffee on your way to work, or if you buy a phone charger, anything that you buy, you need to calculate how many hours did that item take me to purchase. Make it real, make money real. And then when it comes to building that budget, draw 3 months bank statements. That gives you a good idea in terms of where your money is currently going, and take a look at all of those debit orders. Think about your financial commitments. Who am I financially responsible for on a month-on-month basis? Ask yourself, where is my cash going? If you're using cash versus using, SnapScan or using debit orders in order to pay for items, or your credit card or Apple Pay or whatever it is that you're using, ask yourself, do I know where my money is going? And very importantly, has my budget changed? And do I need to be perhaps more conscious or on track with my spending? Dave Ramsey talks about a budget tells your money where to go, instead of going, oh my goodness, it is the 12th of the month. How am I going to get to payday? 13 sleeps to go. So really it enables you to be in the driver's seat of your financial life. So vitally important. It also allows you to see where money is perhaps seeping out, where there's leakage, whether you need to change something. So in terms of money going out of your budget, this is where your expenses come in. So fixed expenses, as I mentioned, the have-tos, your bond or your rent, your car repayment, insurance premiums that you need to cover on a monthly basis. So often people get into financial stress and financial difficulty, and they cancel those insurance policies. They cancel their car insurance, and the next thing you know, they've had a bumper bashing with a BMW, and they're in a terrible financial situation. So the fixed expenses, the things you have to cover, could be school fees. It could be really the have-tos of your budget. Then variable, the things that go up and down, and then discretionary. So that could be Uber Eats, it could be your gym memberships, it could be going out, it could be gifts, it could be your hair, it could be your nails, it could be magazine subscriptions, absolutely anything. So the secret to budgeting is once you've built that budget, you've got to almost work out the percentage of your income that you're spending on the various line items. Vitally important step. So earlier on, I used that example of your hourly rate. In this example, let's use the cell phone once again. Income 10,000 Rand, you're spending, let's say, 1,000 Rand on your data costs, on your phone costs for your family unit. That would be equivalent of 10%, 1,000 as a proportion to 10,000. Then you've got to ask yourself, is this too high? Frighteningly enough, and many of you most probably are saying, sure, 10% is high, but according to FinScope, around about 9% currently in South Africa is being spent on phone costs and data. So you need to take a look at that budget. What am I earning? What am I spending money on? And then work it out as a percentage, because that would give you a great insight in terms of perhaps making tweaks to that budget or changing your budget habits or changing your budget line items and your expenditure. So there's a great rule of budgeting. Some people follow it, and that's the 50-30-20 rule. So 50% of your budget should be used on essentials, 30% should be used on your wants, and 20% on your saving. Now, your budget might look completely different to that. So what is important is to really know your numbers. Know your numbers. Do you understand your income? Yes. Do you understand your benefits? Yes. How much of your income are you spending on your debt commitments? Why? How much are my monthly expenses? Do I have savings to fall back on in the event of an emergency, long-term retirement? Know your numbers. Vitally important. And then on your budget, very important to ask yourself, are you profitable, meaning you're spending less than you earn and you're saving every month? Are you breaking even? So you're earning 20,000, you're spending 20,000, you're at break even? Or are you short every month? Are you in that vulnerable stage? You earn 10, you spend 10 and a half. Where are you getting that money from? Well, I use my credit card. That's when you're living on other people's money. Or are you unsure of what the outcome is? So let's just hear from you as the group. Are you breaking even? Are you breaking even? Are you making a profit? Do you have a monthly shortfall? Or are you unsure of what the numbers are? So once again, on Mentee Polling, I would love for you to engage with us. So for many of you, you were saying, yes, I'm budgeting, thumbs up. But now I'd like you to really take a deep dive in and see what are the budget outcomes. Every single month, are you breaking even? Are you making a profit? Are you unsure? Where are you at? So that then we're able to take a look at what are we going to do differently. And obviously the goal is to make a profit, but we can't take you from a massive loss to a massive profit. We're going to work small changes, big difference. So that's a money philosophy we're going to unpack. So I'm hoping you can all see it. And here you can see some of you are saying I've got a monthly shortfall, I'm breaking even. And some of you saying I'm making a profit. That's absolutely amazing. For those of you who are unsure, we're going to encourage you to draw up your budget and see where you're at right now. For those of you who are making a profit, that is brilliant because you're living within your means, you're spending less than you earn, and that is vitally important. If you've got a monthly shortfall and you're breaking even and you're not saving, we then need to once again look at how we can potentially streamline that budget. So I'm loving the engagement. Thank you so much. And I trust that your questions are being answered if you're posting them on the chat. So it's a golden rule in money management. is you've got to spend less than you earn. You've got to cut your cloth. You've got to tweak those monthly expenses. So vitally important. You've now unpacked your income. You need to understand, right, how can I make sure that I spend less than I earn? So in terms of this, it's interesting that it is said that rich people stay rich by living like they're broke, and broke people stay broke because they live like they're rich. So you need to look at how you can track your spending, create that budget, streamline, avoid what we call lifestyle inflation. We're going to touch on that. We need to look at how you can get out of the debt trap and perhaps forget about competing with the Joneses. Very often in South Africa, we try and live Gupta style. So we live beyond our means, and we are going to unpack, but certain things are outside of my control. I'm breaking even currently because of the cost of living, and what can I do differently? But, when it comes to budgeting, it's all about having that habit of budgeting. I love the fact that Aristotle said everything that we do, every day that we do it, it's the result of a habit. Brian Tracy talks about if you form good habits and make them your masters, then you're going to be able to achieve success. And good habits, hard to develop, but easy to live with. Bad habits, easy to develop, very difficult to live with. So some of the bad financial habits we're seeing at the moment is we shop as a habit, or we impulse buy, or we pay our bills late, or we're not tracking our expenditure. We haven't tweaked our budgets due to the fact that the cost of petrol's gone up. We haven't changed our grocery spend or checked what we're paying on bank charges, despite the fact we know it's a monthly expense. So there are two ways to make a budget more profitable. You could either increase your income or you reduce your expenses. So if you're working for a company, it's very hard to go to your boss and say, I want an increase, because, times are tough. Everybody wants an increase. So learning more, definitely very often the more we learn, the more we earn. It's statistically proven. The other option in terms of earning more is a side hustle. And depending on your company, if you're employed by a company, you might want to see what the employment contract says with regards to a side hustle. Interesting, in these tough times, more and more people are exploring a side hustle as a way of complementing their income, but also the importance of reducing expenses or streamlining expenses. So the benefits of starting a side hustle is obviously you're making extra money. It cannot be in conflict with your work. Many of the employment contracts I've seen can't be in conflict. You can't use work time in order to, manage that side hustle. But the benefit is the more work you put in, potentially the more income you earn. And those side hustles range from Uber to range from baking biscuits, tutoring as a side hustle perhaps selling things on the side. It could really range from a wide variety of options. But some of the real benefits of budgeting is it enables you to keep your eye on the prize, enables you to stay on track. You're not just living in the here and now, but you're thinking about your financial future. Emergencies don't stress you out because you've got an in case of emergency fund. You're able to see what your habits are. You stress less. And that, I guess, is one of the key benefits of budgeting, is you're not as stressed. One of the big challenges with monthly or the cost of living going up, or what we call lifestyle creep, is very often people think, well, if only I earned more, then my situation would be better. And then when they do earn more, if they receive an annual increase or a discretionary increase or an opportunity to earn more, sadly, their lifestyle also creeps up. So it's vitally important to ask yourself, you know, as my income increases, are my expenses increasing? And I guess this pressure to have a better life is great if it comes intrinsically, but if it's a case of family members asking for more support, we need to set some expectations. So no matter where your budget's at, it's vitally important to really look at what changes can you make. And I'd love to spend a few minutes just taking a look at this philosophy: small changes, big difference. Our philosophy around budgeting and making your rands make sense is that we truly believe every line item on every budget is a choice. So you choose to work for company X or company Y. It's your choice. And it's a good choice. You choose to spend money on the following expenses. And if you start to see it as a choice, then you might say, well, it's not my choice to have school fees. I've got to send my child to school. I still want you to see that it was your choice to have that child. And I know it's a difficult thing to really unpack. Or it's your choice to pay for insurance. It's a great choice and one you should keep. Or it's your choice to spend money on those luxury items. It's your choice to provide for certain family members. It's your choice to tithe to whatever charity you tithe to. But our philosophy is, if you start to think about every line item being a choice, then potentially you can change your choices and change the outcome. So that's the power of thinking in this way. Every single line item needs to be really analyzed, and you need to ask yourself, do I want to spend this money in this way? And the goal here, therefore, is to really make more informed, positive choices and to start to become aware of those negative choices. So a great example I often use is this guy, Teboho. Let's say he's 30 years old, he earns 10,000 Rand, and prior to COVID, every single day on his way to work, he would buy a cup of coffee. Now, let's pretend that coffee costs 20 bucks. If he was simply to change that small habit of buying coffee on the way to work, certainly during COVID, let's say he worked from home, what would be the impact on that? Well, if that small change compounds over the next 25 years, it would be a monthly saving of 440 Rand, an annual saving of 5,300 Rand, with an investment return 25 years later, Tebogo's saved 1 million Rand. So really the power is to think that if I change my habits, and you might say, well, I don't drink coffee, but it's really any habit, because we are what we do. So what we need to do is we need to become aware of our cues, the routines, and how perhaps we use money to reward ourselves. An example of that in my own life is on a Friday afternoon, my cue is I don't want to cook. So the routine is to order Uber Eats or takeaways in order to reward myself for a week done. So how do we change this habit? Well, you need to A, become aware of the habit. B, ask yourself what's the benefit of changing that habit. And then C, just do it. Just start. So within your control, I'd love for you to share with us what are some of the things that perhaps you would be willing to change on your budget before we focus on what's outside of our control. What are we going to do when it comes to the cost of living, the cost of petrol going up? How do we cope with that? But let's take a look at what would be one small change that you would be willing to make on your budget. Is it the coffee? Is it the cigarettes perhaps? Is it Uber Eats? Is it your bank charges you would be willing to change? Are you willing to change from your gym membership? It could be absolutely anything, but let's inspire others. Now, when you share your change. Not only do you hold yourself accountable to it, but secondly, you also inspire others to change. So I really encourage you to participate in this little exercise. Somebody is saying less alcohol and takeout. Brilliant. Not buying coffee. Perhaps changing the eating out regularly or reducing the takeaways, spending less on snacks. Brilliant. Sacrificing the wine. Brave. Going to the salon and buying my own products and doing it at home. Monitoring my pension. Stopping eating out. So we're going to share these changes with you, and hopefully they inspire your colleagues and your friends and the people around you, and perhaps start to talk about what you're willing to do. Somebody is saying shopping once a week versus every other day, and shopping with a list. Well done. That is absolutely amazing. So we're going to now touch on things that are outside of our control. But really, when it comes to the current challenge, it's almost like if we need to focus on what we can control versus what is outside of our control. That sweet spot, something that matters and something within our control. Because I wish I could tell you that I could control the cost of petrol, or I can control the inflation rate, or the fact that when interest rates go up, that's outside of our control. So we need to focus on what is within our control. And that's where the sweet spot lies. The truth is, petrol is a massive, massive, massive cost, and we know it's now at its all-time high. So what could we do when it comes to petrol? And I guess in terms of that, we need to really take a look at unnecessary travel and streamline as much as possible. Could you carpool to work? Could you share a lift with a couple of people who are going in the same direction on the weekend? Don't make unnecessary trips. Don't overload your car. Keep within the keep your speed to a minimum, not a maximum. All of these things, all of these tiny tweaks can potentially not change the cost of petrol, but reduce it. I've become hyper aware of my driving and sort of said, no, I'm not willing to drive here. If we're going somewhere, can we drive together? Try and save as much as possible. When it comes to groceries, we also know that the cost of petrol doesn't just impact the cost of transport, but it impacts every single line item and grocery item that we purchase. So what would be your best grocery saving tip in these very tough economic times? What would be your suggestion in terms of perhaps streamlining your grocery spend? So I'd love to ask you to participate in terms of that and share your best grocery tip. For the participant who said, I'm not going to the shop daily, I'm going to do it weekly, phenomenal. Definitely, definitely, definitely that saves me personally money. I can also tell you that when I send my husband to the shops with a list, he only buys what's on the list. Shopping around and looking at different prices, definitely important. Shopping with a list, sticking to that list, eating something before you shop, planning your meals, brilliant. Buying online. So without a doubt, some people swear by buying online. Others say no, they spend more when buying online. Avoiding luxury items, I'm completely with you. So there are hundreds, if not thousands, of different ideas. And I certainly can say, check a 60-60. Somebody is saying very focused purchasing, not random purchases. So great ideas. Right now, it is vitally important. Set up a meal plan. Looking at meatless Mondays, perhaps reducing the amount, because we know meat costs a huge amount. So perhaps looking at meatless Mondays, looking at what are you making, check your stock before you shop, making recipes that you can, you don't have to buy special ingredients for. Planning, go VAT free, planning your meals around the browns, brown bread, brown beans, brown rice. looking at really checking that stock and removing luxury items, vitally important. But the truth of it is we cannot just focus on one line item. We've actually got to make sure that our personal finances are all about consistency. Doing something once is easy. It's all about the consistency at the end of the day. I'm sure if I was to ask you, did you brush your teeth this morning? You would have all said, yes, I did. Nobody reminded you. The secret to beautiful teeth is brushing your teeth twice a day for 2 minutes a day. And the same can be true in terms of budgeting. It's all about the consistency. And then ask yourself, what's holding you back from reaching the financial outcome? Is it perhaps your thoughts and feelings? Is it your thoughts around, I'm not earning enough? Is it your relationship with money? Is it family support? Is it lack of planning, or is it something completely outside of your control? We'll send you those short little videos that you can take a look at. And I would just like to end on the message of, if you're in a situation where your family and financial support is really having an impact on your budget, you're not alone. Family do impact our finances. Those two F's are inextricably linked. And so if your family and family support is impacting your finances, remember you can afford anything, but you can't afford everything. And unless you take care of yourself, unless you put your own oxygen mask on first, you cannot help those around you. So don't get into debt when it comes to supporting your family. Really reach out and get the best of breed advice. And when it comes to debt is the most common reason for budgets failing. And I guess what you need to do is you need to ask yourself, if I've got too much debt, I need to acknowledge that debt. I need to realize that my budget, I cannot afford my living expenses and my debt. And if you are feeling that way, acknowledging the debt is the first step to fixing it. So many of us live in a situation of financial denial, burying our heads in the sand, ignoring the problem, hoping that it will go away. But debt doesn't go away unless you deal with it. So interest rates have meant that our debt repayments increase. That's put pressure on us as consumers. And so we need to be able to reach out and really imagine waking up on payday with no debt at all. Imagine how life would be if we were just having good debt, bricks and books, your home and your learning or your education, and that short-term debt was a thing of the past. So with that, just a reminder that budget reflects your values, reflects your goals, reflects what you want to achieve in your life. And so whatever that goal is, write it down, put pen to paper, and then finally ask yourself whether you're willing to invest your time in managing your finances more effectively. And so I see we've run out of time today, so I'm going to hand over to Daniela to wrap us up. And just a reminder, it's so important to make have a line item for savings in your budget, to make sure you expect the unexpected, to include those protection elements, to review your debit orders, and finally to think about your future financial self. So over to you, Daniela. I'd love to ask this final mentee polling question. I'm hoping you found today's Power Hour live webinar valuable. Over to you.
Thanks, Val. I thoroughly enjoyed the session. A couple of nuggets that I really loved was your 50-30-20 split, the basics of budgeting. And I definitely think it's something I'm going to take home and use for myself. The other that I really liked is that rich people stay rich by living poor, and poor people stay poor by living rich. I really enjoyed that as well, and actually made me think of all the famous rich people in the world. They wear the plainest clothing. Do the simplest things in life. And I think, don't make money by spending it. So thank you. I really, really appreciate it. Just a heads up to everybody in the crowd. Thank you so much for attending today's session. If anything in Val's presentation did trigger you from a financial perspective or emotional perspective, contact Ask Nelson. You can contact us for counseling, coaching, legal advice, or any other financial advisory services that Val's spoken about. If you're wanting to set up a budget from scratch, that's something Val's financial team can help you with there. If you're wanting to work with the one that you've got now, maybe you were one of that small percentage that are living well within your means and have that extra savings pocket. What do you do with that extra money? There's a couple of investment options you can look at as well. That can advise you best on how to manage your money best. If you want to contact Ask Nelson, you can contact us through the phone. Our phone number is 0861 635 766. You could email us, asknelson@kaelo.co.za. If you could just click onto the next slide there, Val. Those are all our contact details, both from South Africa and outside of South Africa as well, leading into Africa. Alternatively, there's a link within the chat box if you'd like to contact the financial team directly. Just click on the link, complete your details, and they'll be in contact with you. Up next, or next month rather, Tracy Helps, which I'm sure you all know and love by now, will be talking us through empowered women. It won't be on a Tuesday next month because of Women's Day on the 9th of August. So we've shifted to the 10th of August at 2:00. If you want to register for that, you can register online on the Kaelo website. I'll pop the link on the chat box for you now. And I look forward to seeing you all. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you, Val, for sharing your knowledge and your positive light. I'm sure everybody enjoyed it as much as I did. And look forward to seeing you again. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Take care, be well, and stay financially healthy.